Hi guys, so today I'm going to talk to you about what poor response in IVF actually means because in my experience, I was new at it. I did not know all these terminologies. I did not know what that meant for me. And because I took the time to actually find out what it meant for me, I was able to explore options that would work for me treatment wise. So I'll get right to it so that I can kind of tell you my experience of being a poor responder in IVF. So, like many people who are starting on the journey, reproductive journey, I actually started with tracking my ovulation cycles and OPK because I had a very regular menstrual cycle. So, I think I did about 4 to 5 months of OPKs and really tracking. And then took a break from that over Christmas holidays of that particular year. So did about 4 to 5 months of OPK, took 2 months off, and then in the beginning of 2020, then decided to go straight into IUI. And I did 3 cycles of IUI before the pandemic. My fourth cycle ended up being kind of like, I would say I was on the same protocol of the IUIs, but was able to use OPK to time at home. And so did not do the IUI at the hospital. And all those cycles did not work. When I was doing the IUI, I noticed that my follicle size and eggs I was able to retrieve for each IUI cycle based on the protocols that I was given for IUI was averaging 2 follicles each month. So I had 2 follicles in January, 2 follicles February, 2 follicles March, and they were pretty close in size. There wasn't there was one that was dominant, but the other one was matching it pretty close in size. Then I did my first conventional IVF, during the pandemic because they were allowing women of advanced maternal age to continue fertility treatments in some clinics. And when I did the conventional cycle, it just did not work. I spent so much money on medications, about $6,000 in medications, and was only able to have one dominant follicle. And so my doctor recommended that I revert to IUI, and that was when I found out that officially I was a poor responder. So at that point, I started researching on it. And being a poor responder generally just means that no matter how much medication that you're given, your ovaries just do not respond. And I also learned that that can happen to anybody at any age. And the prognosis that I had, which is diminished ovarian reserve, very low AMH, and low antifollicle count with antifollicles of 5 or below, it really put me into this category that they talk about poor response. And so that's really how I started like learning. So now the key was how do poor responders function in this fertility space that we have when it comes to treatment? So I always knew at the back of my mind that just because you're a poor responder doesn't mean that doctors should not be able to work with you. But I didn't quite know how I would go about it. I just thought, I was like, what? Well, but if you're still having your menstrual cycle, and even if it does take longer because you're older, there's got to be somebody who's willing to advance the treatment from IUIs because it was just like, revert to IUI, revert to IUI, and we had tried IUI and it wasn't working. So that's when I actually started doing my research, and I discovered that there is, different types of IVF. And I found out about the mini IVF, and I found out about the natural cycle IVF. And for poor responders, those two are such an asset because they allow you to advance in treatment. That way, you're not repeatedly circulating back to, doing IUIs or just trying naturally. So I was able to then, the next thing was to find doctors. And so I was able to find 3 doctors. There was Dr. Zhang in New York City. There was Dr. Frank Yilian in LA, and there was Dr. Saul Silber in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, that did, that type of IVF. And then I was able to find a fertility clinic in the Southeast, the Southeast Fertility Clinic by Dr. Keenan. And they do natural and mini, and they actually list it on there. And I also read in each of these doctors' descriptions that if you have diminished ovarian reserve, then either natural or mini would be good for you because you don't respond very well to the medication. And what that means is that they use little medication to be able to see if they can produce more eggs than probably just the one, and then still proceed on with an IVF cycle. And it's funny, guys, because I watched a lot of videos on YouTube on this, from just people in the fertility community and people in my situation, especially, because remember, if you're a poor responder and you're younger, the quality of the egg is still in your favor if you're younger, because all that means is that you're producing few eggs, but the quality is high. So if somebody is able to retrieve that egg, even if it's one or two, there's a higher chance of that becoming an embryo and of you being successful with limited cycles. But when you are older, the quality becomes an issue. So what that translates to is to do more cycles. But as you know, in conventional IVF, it's really expensive. They always revert to IUI. So that it was just blocked. It's like you can't make a doctor retrieve one egg. They don't think it's worth it. So with a minimal IVF, what I love the most about it is that even if it's multiple cycles, if you want to try it, then you are having a cycle and you are actually trying out your own biological eggs every single month. And for some people, especially in my case, that was completely worth it because I felt with IUI, like it wasn't just advancing in treatment. And believe it or not, that was a lot of months. That was almost half a year of doing that. And because the cost of natural cycle and mini IVF is so low, you can kind of work it out that way. So that's just a snippet into what poor response means and just a snippet into the type of treatments that I was able to find. And thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, feel free to share. Let's talk about this, and hopefully that was useful. This is why I like to share my story, because I know that there's many other people who might be in this situation, and we are building community. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.